Welcome to the PrepZone Show. I'm your host, Johnathan Bentley, joined by my co-host, Zak McCullough. And you noticed this week I didn't do that.
You did not? You
No.
didn't point at me.
So now I did.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, he's right here. So, Zak, it's home. You know, the football season's over for some teams around here, if you can believe it. It's over, man.
For Curry, the season's already over. We'll get into that in a minute. The regular season has ended for three of our other teams. Fortunately, they'll be in the playoffs. But, high school football season cruise right along once again.
Always.
Fortunately, from what it's looking like, the kind of teams we've got this year, it might be a little longer than usual.
I hope so.
Playoff runs.
Yeah. And the weather has been great all season.
It's
we had one
mild.
wet week.
Yes, we did. And it was a very wet week.
Yes, it was. That was the week Jasper played Coleman, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it was the weather that kept Jasper out of the playoffs.
And we're going to blame the weather.
We are going to blame it.
Absolutely, yes.
We're going to blame it on the rain.
All right, so we'll jump into last week's games. We had some good ones. You were at one of these, but let's start with Corner beating Carver for their first region championship, 31-20. But there's more to it than that.
Oh yeah,
for them to come back like that.
Yeah, Carver was up 30-7, was it not?
30-7,
and then Corner came back and won 31-30.
I just don't. Yeah.
We
did not see that coming.
We were told that they were a second-half team.
Yes.
We just didn't realize how much so. But that was the region championship on the line.
Yeah,
they
had to win
clinched with that game. And Carver was 3-3, so this was a game that Corner probably should have won more handily. But hey, a win's a win, and you're region champions.
Yes, and they'll take that. And they went crazy after that. I mean, it came down to a goal line stand. I mean, they got an onside kick. They got a big sack on that last drive. Carver drove all the way to the 1 and got stuffed on the last play. That was perfect. They had a field goal to take the lead. And, congratulations to Corner for some school history there. And game you were at, Winston County also has some school history. Very similar.
Winston County won their first region title since regions were implemented in 2000. They beat Decatur Heritage 14-7. This was a game that defensively was dominant. Look at the score. That shows it very well there, 14-7. The Winston County defense was physical, and it was just phenomenal and really kept Decatur Heritage from having any threat of making it a decent game. Now, I will say Decatur Heritage had one last drive, ran a halfback pass that a receiver was streaking down the field. He could have had a touchdown if he'd have reeled it in, but he dropped it, fortunately. So Winston County is able to hold on there. Congratulations to the Yellow Jackets. 9-0. You won the region. Win this week, and you're 10-0.
Yeah. The last time they were 10-0, looked it up yesterday, 1981.
Wow.
Yes. So it's been a while.
It's been a little bit.
Yeah. These kids' parents were probably kids last time they did this. Hopefully they can do it. I mean, how many 10-0s have we seen around here?
Meek did it a couple of years ago, but before that, we really didn't see it.
Especially in the county.
Right.
Meek, and it seemed like Lynn came close a couple times.
Lynn's always scheduling tough opponents like Alabama Christian.
Yeah, that's really tough. All the way from Montgomery. All right, so now we'll go into some bad news. We had Good Hope beat Dora 47-28.
Yeah, this was the region championship on the line here.
Mm-hmm.
But Good Hope, they're 9-0, phenomenal team. Dora fought hard to keep it close for a little while. Jade Griffin had a great game, but it wasn't enough, and Good Hope was able to finally just smother the Dora defense. Was able to make a few key stops on the Dora offense. And that was the difference in the game.
Yeah, they Griffin held to 22 yards in the second half after 200 something.
Yeah, he had a very good first half.
I mean, yeah, he put up his normal numbers. Jasper beats a Columbia team 48-0.
Yeah, the 90th consecutive loss for Columbia High School.
It's hard to believe.
But, I'm proud of Columbia because
they've
still got a football program.
They're playing.
The kids are still showing up to play football.
Yes.
So
they could quit, and they're not. So I'd love to see them win a game every once in a while.
As long as it's not against Jasper.
Right.
As long as it's not against Jasper.
Right. Yeah, that's tough for a 6A school. The scheduling has got to be really tough for them every year.
But for the Vikings, you moved to 6-3 on the season. I mean, we've mentioned it enough times. Not going to the playoffs, but still, phenomenal season compared to where they were last year.
Yes. No matter what happens next week. Lynn, this is just typical Lynn, 35-6 over South Lamar.
Yeah,
this is just what they do every week.
Last year, this was a phenomenal game. South Lamar had Lynn on the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
This year, South Lamar's really taken a downturn. Lynn's on the same exact level they were last year. So great for the Bears to get this win, and they're going to finish the regular season 9-1.
Yep. So it's like South Lamar and Berry swap places.
Yes.
Now Berry's has one loss
to Lynn.
Yes, and that's it. That's a tough region. Speaking of tough regions, Meek is not in one. And well, the top is very good.
It is
but the bottom, Meek 54, Vina, which could be a playoff team, 14.
Yeah, that was just an absolute destruction by Meek.
Yeah, that's what they do.
This Vina team been a decent season for them. Well, for Vina, it's been an outstanding season. They're not 0-10. In fact, they are 6-3 or 6-4. They finished the season, but Meek just ran all over them. I mean, what else can you say? Meek is on a 6-game winning streak.
Yes, started 0-3, all against teams that are still ranked.
Right,
I believe Hackleburg, Winston County, and Lynn. Boy, it's a tough start. Yeah, that was a very tough schedule to start, but I mean they've just kept winning since. And Addison, kind of a similar game, 57-0 over Phillips. That's another region.
Yeah, Phillips. Phillips has been somewhat of a rough season up in Bear Creek, but Addison took advantage. Left, no doubt, dominated.
Yep. We got some county scores here. Midfield, 62-6 over Oakman. That was a Thursday game,
and that was
surprising.
That was for the 4th seed in that region. That was a playoff or bust game, and unfortunately, it's the first time in 14 years that Oakman's going to miss the playoffs.
Yes, yeah, that was a surprising score.
Yeah, I mean,
they're banged up, and you go through that gauntlet. It hadn't helped them. When you play Gordo and Winfield back-to-back.
They played Gordo, and they were so close.
I know.
We don't realize how close this Oatman team was to actually beating Gordo.
Yes, and that would have changed everything.
Since then, it's just all gone downhill.
Yeah.
Now, they're 4-5. They've got a shot this week to go 5-5. Obviously, a disappointing season because you're not going to the playoffs.
Yeah, they're used to that.
It was very surprising for a team that was 4-1 at one point.
Yeah. All right, so Haleyville, it's your typical Cordova score, 21, Cordova 7. They just have trouble scoring. It was close again for a half.
Yeah, the Blue Devils' defense responded very well, considering last week they were really dominated. This week kept it close, but man, if Cordova just could find some offense,
yes, their defense
then they would be in a completely different situation.
Gordo 56, Carbon Hill 6. Typical Gordo.
Gordo's just what can you
Gordo.
say? It's a juggernaut.
Hubbardsville 65, Summerton Christian 20.
Yeah, Summerton Christian's getting the hang of this offense.
They're getting like 3 touchdowns a game. Yeah.
They've done a really good job. We'll get into Jonah Marshall for Summerton Christian, who had a phenomenal game. We'll get into him in a minute, talk about his day. But defensively, they just didn't have the firepower to keep up with Hubbardsville. So Hubbardsville's had a really good season, though.
Yeah, they're back. And the final score: Fultondale 70 and Curry 0 to end the season.
Yeah, season is over for Curry, but you know the boys at Curry they put up a tough fight this season. They had the first 2 games which they were really in against Carbon Hill, Cold Springs. After that, the schedule was really tough.
Yeah, it got really tough after that.
0-10 is disappointing, but they put in a lot of work this season. I hate that the results on the field ended like they did, but it was still put in a lot of work.
Yeah. Hopefully it's the ground floor for Coach Cordell in his second year there. So we'll talk about some top players of the week. Some different names on here this time.
Yes.
It says 2 players of the week, but there's actually just one.
Just one.
Yeah, it's Keaton Coffee at corner. We talked about corner coming back. So I got his stats now. It's 13 of 20 for 220 yards and 4 touchdowns.
That's pretty good.
See, Unruh, who was a 1,000-yard rusher and was our player of the week 2 weeks in a row early in the year, he was out. And they still won this game. So
if you'd have told me, I didn't realize that Unruh was not going to play.
He played the week before. Yeah.
And if you'd have told me that he wasn't, I would have thought that corner would get beat pretty handily. And for a while, it looked like that was about to happen.
Yes, when it was 30-7, absolutely.
But Keaton Coffee just took it upon himself to lead a comeback, and his offensive line protected him. His receivers caught some passes. The defense held on. Good team effort, but Keaton Coffee led the way.
Yeah, he has a signature win now, as we use for Kalen DeBoer when they beat Georgia. Signature win.
Hopefully it doesn't turn out.
Yeah. It keeps going up after that. Ooh. But he has 8 touchdowns the last 2 weeks.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. So he's really picked it up for a sophomore. Pledger for Jasper, 4 touchdowns, 150. He's over 1,000 now.
Yeah, Micah Pledger passes the 1,000-yard mark on the season. Phenomenal accomplishment. So it's been great season for him, and we've had a few 1,000-yard rushers this season.
Yeah, I think that's 5 now.
That makes it 5.
And I think we have a chance to have 6.
We do. and just phenomenal. Hate that you don't get to see him with a few extra games on the end of the season.
I know.
He's got one last game for this 2024 season. Maybe he can put up some more good numbers.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. I'm predicting that this week. So for once, we have a defensive player on here.
Good. We haven't had a defensive player on here
Chip
all
Crow,
year.
22 tackles for Lynn.
Wow.
That's a lot of tackles. Did anybody else have a tackle?
I
They
don't
might
know.
have just said, Crow, go get him. Right? I mean, it's a lot of and he has 122 on the season now, so he had 100 going into this game.
That's a pretty good season that we really haven't given him enough recognition for.
And their defense is, it's fun to talk about offense. Right. Their defense is awesome, actually. Winston County and Lynn.
Whenever you have a good team, like a phenomenal team that's a contender in high school football, the defense has to be what carries the team. Lynn and Winston County, too. They're just fortunate enough they've got an offense that does a pretty good job of making sure it goes further. So
what I like about Winston County is you scored 72 last week, and then you won a 14-7 game.
That's right. You can
do both.
Do and Lynn's the same way. These are two teams that could contend for the Northern Championship in their respective classifications. So Chip Crow definitely, if Lynn is going to make a run, Chip Crow will have to lead the way on defense, along with Braylon Roberts.
Yes, Braylon Roberts had 3 touchdowns as well. I didn't even put him in here. But typical Lynn, everything was clicking, and it has been for the last few weeks, ever since the quarterback came back. That was a big addition. You want to talk about Marshall?
Yeah, I brought him up just a minute ago. Jonah Marshall, a wide receiver for Summit Christian. He had a really good game. I know it was in a losing effort, but still, 6 catches for 171 yards and 3 touchdowns. The only 3 touchdowns Summit Christian was able to score. So he had a phenomenal game, really carried his team, albeit in a losing effort.
Yeah, and I would give Caden Parrish some credit, too, for throwing those 3 touchdowns.
That's right.
That's big receiving numbers. 171. Yeah, you don't see that very often. And Huppertville's a good team.
Huppertville is a really, really good team. And they're going to be a 3 seed in that region behind Lynn and Barry.
Yeah, I think they play Addison.
That's going to be fun.
Addison.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, that region is going to match up well with anybody.
But that's for next week. We've still got things to talk about for this week, games coming up.
Or maybe it was, I think they play Meek.
Oh, they do play Meek?
It's Meek or Addison.
Meek or Addison.
Yes, yeah, we'll talk about that later.
We will.
So, we'll talk about this week's short list of games.
Yeah, there's a few teams taking the week off.
You mentioned there was 4 already done.
Right.
And everybody else is finishing up the season this week. And we'll start with one playoff team, Lawrence County at Jasper, same record, 6-3, and Jasper's season finale.
Yeah, it's senior night for the Vikings at Kyra Gambrill Field. Lawrence County, we're going to see them next week as well because they'll be playing Corner.
Back around here.
So they are the 4th seed in Class 5A, playing a Jasper team that were they still in 5A, they would be probably higher than a 4th seed.
Because Corner basically inherited Jasper's old region.
Right. But we've mentioned it too much for Jasper. So let's stick with the final game of the season. I think Jasper wins pretty handily.
Yeah, I do too. Being at home, this is basically their playoff game now. Yeah. All right. So 2 local teams: Carbon Hill 1-8 at Meek, 6-3. Anything surprising here?
Probably not. Meek will try to limit Carbon Hill's possessions, make sure that Carbon Hill's offense doesn't get a chance to click, try to wear down the defense. Probably be a little low scoring because, like I said, I figure Meek will try to limit possessions and eat up the clock a lot.
Yeah, they got to get ready for the playoffs.
That's right. You don't want to risk anybody getting hurt in a game that it would keep your momentum going if you're able to win very nicely, but it's not worth getting people hurt, to have a dominant performance.
Yes.
Just survive.
I do pick Meek in this one.
Yeah, I do too.
We both pick.
We will pick Meek.
Yeah, I think they have too much running. The thing is, they just have 3 or 4 guys that can pick up 100 yards. So,
and an offensive line that'll help push the way.
Yeah, that'll be a run-heavy game, like you said, a clock game. Faulkville at Winston County, can they spoil this perfect season?
They can. Will they? I doubt it. I think Winston County will probably win fairly handily. But Faulkville, they've got a decent team. They're 5-4. But I think Winston County has way, way too much firepower on offense, and their defense is too good. I got Winston County winning pretty big.
Yeah, me too. They've had trouble in this game in the past, but this is a different Winston County.
This is a much different
This is a loaded Winston County team on both sides of the ball. So we're both taking Winston County. Carver 3-4 coming off that crushing loss against Corner at Cordova 1-8.
Yeah, well, Carver, you mentioned it. They're coming off of just an excruciating loss to Corner. I figure they'll get everything right here. Will the Cordova defense be able to stop Carver, keep it close? Maybe. Going to go with Carver here, though. I think that's probably it won't be terribly ugly, but low scoring, probably another clock game, like you say.
Yeah, I agree. Carver, they thought they scored on that last play. It was that close.
Man.
I mean, and you think the ramifications all on that one play. Yeah,
that means
the whole region was riding on the last play of the game.
Carver's going to be inspired, I think.
Yeah.
So
I think they're a playoff team anyway, so we'll see. This is an interesting game. Southeastern 6-3. They're on a hot streak. Oakman 4-5. They are not on a hot streak.
they're on a cold streak.
0-4. Yeah. So
Southeastern started the season 0-3, and they have reeled off 6 in a row, just like Meek.
That's correct. Yes.
It's at Oatman, senior night for Oatman.
Boy.
And I went back and forth on this one. This one was tough because is this Oatman showing up for one final game just to prove that it was a fluke that they got left out of the playoffs, or they just crushed it missing out and just basically playing the prescribed 48 minutes and really not with any spirit? I'm going to say that they go with the latter. Also, Southeastern probably won't have their starters out there very long because last thing you want if you're Southeastern, you're going to be a 2 seed in their region behind Coosa Christian.
Oh, tough
so
region.
You don't want to get anybody hurt playing an Oatman team that, they can. You got Trace Cagle trying to tackle people. That could be dangerous for Southeastern players. So I figure those two things combined lead to Oatman winning it close.
Wow. Yeah, I usually don't pick a team that got beat like they did last week, but I'm going to say that was 3A, and maybe that was a compilation of a lot of things happening the same week. And Oakman's back home, and maybe hopefully some people are healthy, and they're trying to go out on. I'm just going to take Oakman.
Because don't bet against Oatman. Don't do it.
Yeah, no, I'm chalking up last week to just craziness.
The minute that you pick against Oatman's when they turn around and win. So
then that means we need to pick against them?
Oh, that's true.
No.
But we're going to go with Oatman. But
other people can do that.
Other people can do that. I think other people probably will. Hopefully they're wrong.
Yeah, we know they're well coached and got some great players, so hopefully they can turn that around. Springville at Corner. Corner closes this one out. Do they even? I mean, after last week, this one really doesn't mean a whole lot. But they are playing a Springville team that was okay, 3-6. They tied Dora in the Jamboree this year. I remember that. But I'll take Corner.
Yeah, I'm going with Corner as well.
Stick with them.
Too much Keaton coffee. Probably be close for a little bit, and then around right after halftime, third quarter, because Corner's a second half team. So I figured it'll be close at the beginning, then Corner will steamroll them in the end.
Yes, that's 2 games in a row. John Carroll was up 10 on them 2 weeks ago at halftime, and this week they were down. Last week they were down big at halftime, so
that'll help them in the playoffs.
Yeah, they just know they're going to come back.
If they fall behind, they have the confidence that they can do it.
Yes, most teams can't do that.
Right,
very rare. Holy Spirit, on the last game of this week around here, 2-7 at Seminary Christian, 1-8. Could this be number 2? For Seminary Christian?
It really could. I think Seminary Christian's going to put together a fight, and I think it's going to be very, very close. But in the end, I had to go with Holy Spirit just because they've shown a little more. They've shown some defense early in the season, and as of late, their defense, it's not terrible, but maybe it'll slow down Seminary Christian's offense, which they've just found. Holy Spirit shouldn't have any issue scoring as well. So very close, but I'm going to have to go with Holy Spirit.
Yeah, I saw that line was really close online, so I'm going Holy Spirit as well, but hopefully I'm wrong. And I think it will be close because they can score.
Right.
So this will be a close one. All right, that wraps up our games. Now we're going to talk about the region championships a little bit. So we have 3 region champs.
We do.
It is Lynn, Winston County, and Corner. And there's not one in the county.
Yeah,
and not only that, one county team made the playoffs?
Only one team in Walker County. That is.
I don't remember it ever being this bad.
That's.
Jasper should have made it.
Jasper should.
I know it's not a county team.
To be fair, they're not a county school.
It's a city school.
But they are in our county.
Yes, I mean teams inside the county, including Seminary Christian as well.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's been a really, Oakman's always there, and I think they'll be back. But how do you feel about the way our teams went this year?
Well, in Winston County, I think it's been absolutely amazing because all of the teams in Winston County in our coverage area are going to the playoffs. So it's been phenomenal, just a little north of us. However, here in Walker County, hasn't been the same. Dora, I mean, it's starting to get where we can chalk them up going to the playoffs every year. We thought it was that way with Oatman, and it looked that way up until the very, very end. And then
that Valmont game, I think, was it.
Yeah, last week was just excruciating, losing 62-6 to midfield.
He said they were good. I think it just got out of hand, and that was snowball type deal.
Yeah, it might have been. I hope so. I mean, I hate to see Oatman left out of the playoffs because it's, the streak that we've talked about for the past however many years, it's over now, and they have to start from square one next season.
Let's start a new one.
So, yeah, let's start a new one. I hate that. And then, obviously, Selwyn and Christian, Carbon Hill, Curry, all trying to rebuild. Same with Cordova. So, the fact that they all struggled, hopefully that just shows that they're going to move in the right direction. Because, to be fair, we had some teams taking steps in the right direction, like Carbon Hill and Selwyn and Christian. At least they won a game this season, which they did not last year. Yes. They did not last year.
Wow, yeah.
So maybe they're, starting to slowly climb their way out of where they've been. Curry and Cordova, they're both such well-coached teams. So I think it's a matter of time before they start seeing some success. So this season was not good, but I think it'll get better in the future.
I think Jasper obviously took the biggest step.
Jasper did.
Even though they didn't make the playoffs, which we said before.
Yeah, we need 15 to stop
times.
Yeah.
Yes. But 7-3, if they win this week, will be incredible. After a 1-9 season, nobody predicted that.
No, not at all.
But yeah, hopefully we'll have some more teams in the playoffs next year. And I was hoping at least Dora will host one. Yeah, so everyone can go to Dora first week of the playoffs.
Like it's
get Brooks.
Yeah, right off Highway 78, beautiful stadium.
Yes.
So show up for that one. And if you're up in Winston County, you've got a whole host of teams to pick from.
4 teams to choose from.
It's going to be fun.
I would recommend all those teams. All good places to watch a game.
Addison does have to travel. They'll be at Barry, I believe.
Oh, that's very, very tough.
But
Hubbertville at Meek will be a good game.
That'll be very interesting.
Yes, and Lynn and Winston County hosting. So, yeah, a lot of choices in Winston County. It's true. Next year will be different.
Next year, hopefully.
Yeah, we're going to have everybody's in the playoffs.
All 12.
Like the old days when Cordova always made it and Oakman made it. Yeah, we need to get those days back. All right, so this is one of our last times to go through the top 5 teams, which are probably, I know the top's going to be the same.
Oh, I think it is.
But who do you have at number 5?
At number 5, I had to go with Jasper. Just a phenomenal season. 6-3, there's really, because they're not going to the playoffs, it seems like you should leave them out. But to be honest, they're one of the top 5 teams in the area, so I had to put them in there, and I'm glad that they're in this situation because last year they were absolutely not at the contention for the 5 spot. So
it's crazy that you go up to 6A and are this much better.
I know you go up in class. Usually, you'll see a team go down in classification and have some success. This is an anomaly.
This is like Coosa Christian went from 1A to 2A, but that's different.
That's different.
5A to 6A is 5A to 6A is a huge jump, and the schedule. I just it's crazy how it worked out that Corner ends up in that one and wins that region the very next year. So I think had Jasper stayed there, they'd probably make the playoffs at least. Yeah. And it came down to 1 point this year, but next year they'll be back. I think this is a testament to Coach Reeves and the job he's done.
Well, when you got Coach Reeves in, last season was rebuilding year.
Yeah, it really was.
That happens, but you knew a man of his pedigree coaching-wise was going to turn it around. It was just a matter of time. But we've seen a massive, massive turnaround, and I'm very happy to see that. I'm very happy for Jasper.
Yeah, big game this week. Everybody go out and watch them too. It's the last chance. All right, so I have Meek as my number 5.
Oh, Meek your number 5. Okay.
Yeah, I mean they're on a run, and I would have never thought this early in the season. They could have a chance to go 7-3, 7 in a row.
Well,
yeah,
when they were 0-3, I didn't think they'd make the playoffs.
Oh, I
was
either.
A little worried, but turns out the teams they lost to are pretty doggone good.
If you count up the record on those teams, I mean, it's like
27-1.
Does Hackleburg have a loss?
I don't think
so. So yeah, the one loss is Lynn to Hackleburg. Right. That's it. Yeah, who would have known that schedule would be that tough? Number 4.
Number 4, Meek.
I have Jasper.
So, you have Jasper. Okay, so we
reversed
that. We have, but I'm sure our top 3 is going to be probably the same. It might not be. We've disagreed a little bit, but to Meek, like we've said. They've reeled off 7 in a row. They've reeled off 6 in a row. Probably going to get that 7th one this week. Although Carbon Hill has other plans, I'm sure. Going to be interesting to see how that one goes. But yeah, Meek's had a phenomenal season. The way they've really 2 years ago they went 10-0 in the regular season, lost to Pickens in the second round. But it was a great step forward. Then they kind of had a drop-off last year. It wasn't a terrible drop-off, but it was a drop-off nonetheless. So they're moving back up in the right direction. So that's good for them. Very good.
Did you see Pickens County beat Marion to make the playoffs? So they go to Hackleburg to open the playoffs.
Pickens might have a shot against Hackleburg just because
Just
they've been there so much.
Yes, they're used to this.
And I was happy for Pickens to make the playoffs. Hated for Marion County, but I was happy for Pickens.
Yeah, good because they always make a run. It
feels
seems like
it's not the playoffs without Pickens County in it.
Exactly. And Oakman, but we'll
just as long as Pickens doesn't upset one of our area teams.
No, we'll be fine. Yeah, beat Hackleburg. We're okay with that. Number 3, I have Lynn.
Okay, really? Yeah, Lynn at number 3.
That's pretty low, right?
That is pretty low. Their only loss of the season is to Hackleburg.
Yes, but the other 2 teams in front of them are pretty good.
That's true.
But Lynn does seem like they're just legit. I would not want to play them in the first round or the second round probably. The bad news is you're always going to run into somebody incredible like Coosa Christian or whoever it is now.
Yeah, Coosa's in 2A, so Winston County has to worry about that. Or should we say that Coosa has to worry about Winston County?
Right. I know Coosa Christian really wasn't worried about anybody in 1A in the north at least.
Yes. Once you get to the south
that tells
of 1A,
you how good the south is. If Coosa Christian didn't even win a championship the last 2 years.
It feels like it would be.
It's crazy.
It's hard for any North team to win a state championship.
Yes.
But that's another conversation for another day. So your number 3 is Lynn. My number 3 is Corner. How in the world is Corner still 8-1? How many close calls they've had? When you can consistently do that, you deserve to be in the top 3. Consistently come back like that.
Yes.
It's just unbelievable.
And it's weird. The loss was Briarwood Christian, and it kind of was the same way. Like and it just never happened that week.
Yeah, and it didn't materialize.
And that was a home game. I mean, it makes no sense, really.
Yeah.
I have Corner as my 2. And so, we're the same on the top 2.
Yeah, number 1's going to be Winston County. That's very obvious.
You can't go 9-0 and not be number 1.
Oh, of course. They're undefeated. We don't see undefeateds around here very often. So very, very happy for Winston County. They're in 2A. We brought up that Coosa is going to be a threat to them in the north.
Oh, God.
But if they can get past Coosa, they might be going to a state championship game.
Let's get to Coosa first.
You have to beat Faultville this week to keep the undefeated season going.
1981.
That's right.
So you already did this other stuff for the first time ever?
Right.
And now they can do something else for the first time since Bear Bryant was coaching at Alabama, for instance. Toward the end, I guess.
That was the next to the last season.
Yes. But that's how long it's been. 1981
it's been
is crazy.
While. I'm not going to ask you how old you were in 1981. I'm not.
I was a small tyke wearing Alabama clothes. I didn't know any better yet.
See, you should have stayed. You should have stayed like that.
There's pictures, yeah.
Okay,
like so, all right, that wraps up our top 5, and now we can talk about the Crimson Tide, where Bear Bryant used to coach, I believe. I met him once.
Really?
When I was very small, my dad took, I think he was at Crystal.
Wow.
Yeah. Can you imagine Nick Saban meeting people at a Crystal?
He's met people at let's see, I've seen him I haven't seen him personally, but I saw where he went to a Chick-fil-A once and had everybody staring through the window at him. But it'd be hard when you're that famous and that well loved to just go out and eat like a regular, normal, everyday person.
Especially in Tuscaloosa. But that was a Huntsville Crystal, which is still there. Yes. I don't recommend that place, by the way. All right, so Alabama back in the win column. Kind of just a blah game. It was like an old Alabama game from a couple years ago.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, 34-0.
34-0 over a shorthanded Missouri team. They were missing Noel, their top running back, and Brady Cook, their top quarterback, who gutted through a leg injury to come out there and wound up breaking his hand in the second quarter. So, I hate it for him. I mean, I really do. He's a tough competitor, a great quarterback. But Drew Pine, his backup, just did not have he just threw 3 interceptions. So that sums that up.
He was early season thorn bad, but I can't believe that guy played at Notre Dame. It's just crazy.
It is crazy. And Alabama, they've gotten 18 takeaways on the season, which is hard to believe considering how bad the defense has been. So you think, where would this team be without those 18 takeaways right now?
And Auburn is minus 10 in takeaways because it used to be worse. So it's actually gotten a little bit better.
Peyton Thorne's kind of settled in.
Yeah, he has a little bit.
But this Alabama team, seeing what I saw Saturday and then what I saw from LSU Saturday night.
Oh, yeah.
Bama's got a shot to go into Death Valley and win that one.
So it's crazy how 1 week later you're back. You're thinking they make the playoffs again?
I think we can make the playoffs. I really do. It's just beat LSU. They should. I say they shouldn't. They shouldn't have any problem with anybody else left on their schedule. You've
Right.
got an Oklahoma team that they're really feeling that transition to the SEC.
They really are. It was rough.
Yeah. You've got Auburn, and they're kind of moving their way in the right direction. Then Mercer is also in there. We don't even have to talk about them. Which, speaking of Mercer, a little side note, they were undefeated until they met the mighty Samford Bulldogs.
Oh, is that right?
Samford pulled the upset and wrecked Mercer's undefeated season. So proud of Samford.
Way to go.
Good for the Bulldogs. Glad to see that. But this Alabama team could make the playoffs at this point. Just beat LSU.
Yeah, it's crazy how 1 week to the next is
1 week to the next. It's
completely changes your feeling and everything.
It's a roller coaster. Yes. It's an emotional roller coaster.
Always. All right, so let's talk about Auburn real fast. They started running the ball. You believe this? Only took 8 weeks into the season.
It really took more like 2 years because Hugh Freeze, he kept saying that Jarquez Hunter was the best running back he'd ever coached. And he finally made it feel like it last week by just giving him the football.
That's all he had to do.
Gave Jarquez Hunter the football. 278 yards on 23 carries.
It's not many carries.
That's
Get that many yards.
That's the fourth most rushing yards by a single player in Auburn school history.
Unbelievable, really.
Why couldn't they have done this the whole season? Then they might be
have at least one win. Right?
Oh, well, they'd have beaten
Oklahoma, Missouri.
Beaten Oklahoma, they'd have beaten Missouri. So it could be a completely different conversation for Auburn if Hugh Freeze had realized what he needed to do earlier.
They just kept throwing interceptions.
And speaking of interceptions, Peyton Thorne, he did throw one.
Yes.
Did throw an early one. But he realized that the best thing to do is just hand it to number 27. So very, very... one interception, you never want any, but for Peyton Thorne, that's not a bad day.
Right, and at least he bounced back.
He did.
So does Auburn continue this trend now? Can they put together a little winning streak?
They got Vanderbilt.
They got Vanderbilt and ULM.
Well, ULM...
And then it gets hard.
ULM should be an easy win. They've only have 2 losses on the season to the Warhawks. But just Auburn needs to get past this week first, which is going to be very tough.
Yes. Pavia is back. But the guy that beat him at New Mexico State last year. All right, so do you have some picks for us this week?
I have. Got a question. Before the season, did you think that Pitt and SMU would be a ranked matchup of 2 teams undefeated in ACC play?
Yes. I think I had that written down somewhere.
I'm sure you did.
I don't know. Yeah, it might be over there on my desk. But yes. No, I did not expect that. No.
So this
I don't
week,
even know what conference they're in.
Yeah, you don't even know. You forgot that SMU was even in the
Pitt's
ACC.
in the ACC, I know, yes.
Yeah, but Pittsburgh, led by Eli Holstein at quarterback, former Alabama Crimson Tide, back up, going to SMU this week. It's in Fort Worth. SMU's a 7.5-point favorite, and this is really a matchup of who's going to challenge Miami and Clemson at the top of the ACC.
I would not have thought that.
No.
And Pitt's undefeated, but I'm going SMU. I think they're better.
Well, SMU's only loss was to BYU, and BYU's undefeated.
Yeah, boy.
And they're going to be contending with Iowa State for the Big 12 championship.
See, I couldn't have told you what conference BYU was in either. Big West, right? No, anyway.
Yeah.
But, yeah, TCU on that one. Pitt is good, though. I mean, undefeated. What can you say?
It's been a great season for Pittsburgh, considering that their head coach, Pat Narduzzi, was on the hot seat to begin the season. So, happy for Pittsburgh, but I think the fun ends this week. Here's a non-conference game that's very interesting. It's the 4th time this season we've seen a top 5 matchup.
Really?
We saw Alabama, Georgia, Texas, and then Ohio State and Oregon. This week, Ohio State, ranked 4th, traveling to Happy Valley to take on number 3 Penn State. What do you see happening?
Ohio State looked so bad against Nebraska. They really should have lost.
They should have.
And that was a home game. I'm thinking they were looking ahead.
I would think that'd have to be it, right?
Maybe that's what's going on. But they snuck out a win, and they're going to follow it up. And I think they'll handle them pretty easily. Well, they're going to have one of their better games.
I agree with that because Penn State don't really know who's going to be at quarterback. Their starting quarterback, Drew Aller, is going to be a game-time decision. Give me the Buckeyes. I think they're just too talented. Ohio State, 3.5-point favorite on the road. So, going to go with the Buckeyes in that one. In SEC play, Oklahoma at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is only a touchdown favorite compared to playing against an Oklahoma team that has really struggled. Ole Miss do they still have a shot at the playoffs?
No.
I mean, they're kind of
their
on
losses
that fringe border. So do you think Oklahoma pulls the upset over Ole Miss?
No, they've looked really bad. But I mean, Kentucky beat them there.
That's true.
And Kentucky hasn't played well since.
No.
But Oklahoma's just not playing well. I think they were overrated to start the season. And it's the real world now that they're in the SEC, and this will be probably a couple touchdowns.
Okay.
Maybe more.
I agree with you. I think Ole Miss, like you say, probably not going to the playoffs, but it's been a decent season. Obviously not what Ole Miss fans wanted. This was supposed to be the season they contended for a national championship. Has not materialized. Let's see what happens for the rest of the season. Who knows? We could see enough chaos to put Ole Miss back in a conversation for maybe squeaking in
very possible.
to a playoff spot. Next up, and next to last, Texas A&M, the clear number 1 in the SEC right now. They've climbed into the top 10, ranked right there at 10th. They have to travel to South Carolina for what's probably not going to be that easy of a matchup.
No, Texas A&M, I just don't. The smoke and mirrors here, But the funny thing, if Jimbo Fisher was coaching this team, would they even have a winning record? I mean, they just keep beating everybody. They keep winning, and South Carolina's it's a prime spot for an upset. But I'm taking Texas A&M. I really have no reason. I took them last week. So
I want to say South Carolina's so bad because I really think that South Carolina could pull this upset, and they almost had the season-defining upset in Tuscaloosa a few weeks ago. I think this could very much be that to save Shane Beamer's job. So it's really a toss-up for me. I'm leaning Texas A&M, but I would not be surprised if South Carolina pulled the upset.
Right. Yes, especially on the road. That's a tough place to play.
It's at South Carolina. Final game, Vanderbilt at Auburn, because obviously Alabama has a bye week this week to prepare for LSU. So we've only got one of our in-state teams playing. Mm-hmm. That is Auburn, a 7-point favorite at home against a Vanderbilt team that has been the surprise story of the SEC.
Yes, almost beat Texas.
Should have.
They had a chance. And then, of course, the win over Alabama. I'm saying Auburn at home, which they keep losing at home. They went 2-3 in that 5-game stretch to start the season. 5 games at home went 2-3.
And those wins were against New Mexico and Alabama A&M.
Yes.
So
they count. Barely.
They should.
Right. So the guy that won, he was a New Mexico State quarterback last year and thumped Auburn by 3 touchdowns. Pavia?
Yeah, Diego Pavia. And the year before that, he was also at New Mexico State, beat a Liberty team coached by Hugh Freeze.
So, yeah, there is I think they'll be ready this time. I think they maybe weren't thinking they were going to lose to New Mexico State last year. And they know Vanderbilt's good. Okay. See, Vanderbilt's not going to sneak up like they kind of did on Alabama. I mean, this is a team that lost to Georgia State, which is
absurd.
Baffling.
It's absurd.
Yes.
So you going with Auburn?
They're kind of all over the place. I'm going with Auburn, but Pavia, I think the line's too much. But maybe they know something I don't. I think Auburn sticks with the game plan that beat Kentucky.
I think Auburn is going to be prepared, but I don't think it's going to matter. I've got Vanderbilt winning this one. I think it's close for a little while, but then Vanderbilt pulls away because Diego Pavia just looks like a magician when he's playing quarterback. Got to go with Vanderbilt. I'm puzzled as to why Auburn's a touchdown favorite.
You just remember the Alabama game too much.
I do remember it way too much. And I've seen too much of Vanderbilt this season looking good.
Yes,
so
that's true.
I'm going to have to go with the Commodores in this one.
That'll be a good win for them. Auburn has troubles. Auburn is 21-1 against Vanderbilt.
Wow. You did your research.
I mean, I just know it's always they lose to them half the time.
Wow.
It's not like Alabama that beats them, 40 years in a row till this year.
But that wraps up Zach's picks. We'll see how this goes. We disagreed on that one matchup in there, which is hard to believe that we'd ever disagree on anything.
You're just going off the Alabama game. That's the Vanderbilt. I know. This is not your grandfather's or even your father's Vanderbilt.
It's not your older brother's Vanderbilt. It's a very different Vanderbilt team. I would say Clark Lee's the front runner for SEC Coach of the Year at this point.
Now they have a tough schedule, but
they do.
We'll see.
But yeah, we'll definitely see. We will.
All right, so that wraps up our show and almost a whole high school football season. It's very depressing. I know. It's already gone.
But basketball season, we've got good basketball in this county.
And time changes this week.
Ooh.
Oh, that's awful. I wish we were one of the states that didn't change the time.
I know. I like it this way.
Yeah, it's dark enough. Yeah. Anyway, yes, very depressing. So that wraps up the show, and we'll talk about some playoff teams next week. And we want to thank Bevill State for sponsoring the show, Jake for producing, And like and subscribe on YouTube. It'll help us out. And we'll see you next week.